If I say school shooter, what color comes to your mind?
White.
Exactly. Because it's a pattern. That's the whole point I'm making.
But when the white kids do it, it's all fine and dandy.
It's not fine and dandy. If a white kid shows up to a job interview and he's wearing a do-rag, even though he doesn't need one, he's wearing a do-rag and he's wearing like a Iverson jersey.
Let's talk about it. There's only two positions.
Wait, hold on.
One topic that we kind of discussed was about body count. That's a big topic, going around social media. What are your thoughts? Does body count matter for you? Does it matter how many people that your partner slept with, or does it not?
Should it or should it not? So
should it matter?
So are you saying that it should or shouldn't, or are you saying that it does or doesn't?
I'm asking, does it matter to that person?
Okay, what do you think?
In my opinion, it matters. Just because personally, I just wouldn't want, someone that's kind of slept with a lot of people. I don't feel like it's very exclusive, for me. Because if I'm with a woman, I want to at least feel like, I'm close to the only one. So if she's with a lot of people, it's going to be hard to feel like that.
What if she's with the same amount you've been with?
That's okay.
But anything above you isn't okay.
No.
Oh no, it's okay. It's all good. Older I get, the more it doesn't matter. It's something I would want to know. Okay.
But I will
that for us. Go ahead.
I will say this. I'm kind of grown to a point to where I just kind of don't even ask. Like, I'm kind of just more so judging the character of that person rather than even asking the question.
So it doesn't matter.
I mean, a lot of people feel like it does.
Mm-hmm. But a minute ago, you just said you did think it does.
I think it does matter, but I'm saying there are a lot of people that think it does, think it doesn't. Personally, I kind of think it matters, but at the same time, like I said, I've kind of gotten to the point where I kind of don't even ask. But if I find out,
right,
I'd have a problem with it.
So we want to give you guys an opportunity. Okay, faithfully, Karen, I guess is your name. Just sent you an invite. I guess I don't know if I guess you can't join, but like the specific number, don't care to know. Would you say we living in our comfort zones when I come to dating in churches? Like we not taking any risk, too careful to get things right and not wrong in our choosing. You're gonna have to explain that for me, and if you don't mind. So the reason that I ask people to come on is because sometimes when we're reading it, it's hard to really get a gauge of what you mean and what you're saying. It's hard to understand the tone, and I don't want to misinterpret anybody. So that's why if you see that little, it's like a little camera button at the bottom of the screen, and that is a request to join the live. And so you can share your 2 cents. But I'm a little confused by that one. Let's see, Veronica Richardson, people can change and their understanding of it can change.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Understanding of what can change. And I guess, do you think that there's a difference between how men view it and women view it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, why?
Seeing as how men take the physical more seriously, I think that men view it more critical than women do. Like I said earlier, a man, he wants to feel like, there's some sort of exclusivity when it comes to his woman. And it goes back to cheating too, like we talked about a couple weeks ago.
We got a request.
Hello.
Hey, who are you? What's your name? What's your name?
My name is Veronica.
I've never seen you before. Nice. This is my sister. Okay, let's hear. What are your thoughts on what you were trying to say or the comment that's pinned down there?
Yeah.
Question.
So I guess I was more so responding to Sela when he was saying he kind of wanted to feel like he was close to the only person, that they've been with. But when I was saying, their understanding and meaning of it could change. You could be the only person that, like, they did it with under the right context and understanding what it means.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be meaningless before, but, if they marry you and, understand God's way of how it should be done, then
Right.
That's more so what I was saying.
Right. But at the same time, I'm thinking, like, if a girl slept with, like, let's say, like, 75, 100 guys, right? Like, I'm thinking that's a lot of experiences. There's a lot of sizes and shapes and like, that's a lot. Let's be honest, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
so why would that bother you?
Just saying, man, it will bother me because at the same time I'm thinking, like, you don't want to be embarrassed, right? Like, if I'm with a girl that slept with that many people and I'm walking down the street with her and it's like, hey, there goes, I don't want people laughing at me, right? Like, I don't want to be embarrassed. What I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I get that.
I think it is different for, like, men and women, though. I feel like it's always kind of been that way.
So, 242 Mama said, if you ask, be ready for the answer. Takes a lot of maturity and grace. That's true, but would you say that the person, male or female, they should be ready for the answer? They should be ready for the result of the answer. So if the answer is, okay, what's the number of exes or whatever guys you've been with, physical with, or women you've been physical with, and the answer is like 75. And then they're like, okay, I'm not interested anymore. Does that make that person wrong? Or is that just, a preference and they don't have to do that? Like, would you say that that's wrong of that person to walk away? Or would you say that that's okay?
Mm.
What do you guys think?
I don't think it's wrong. Because at the end of the day, you want somebody to accept you for you. So if that's your past and you're putting your past on the table and they can't accept it, hey, that's cool. Find someone that can.
Right.
So I think it's a good thing if they walk away.
Yes, I do think it's wrong for them to walk away.
Why do you think it's wrong?
Yeah, why do you think it's wrong? And then this person said, no, it's not wrong. You guys got to explain. And if you want, I know it's hard to understand through the text threads or whatever, request down there, down below the very bottom screen, there is a little, oh, okay, we already got a request. All right, let's see. Is their preference because they were open and honest and people change. Hey,
I'm driving, so I can't hold the phone.
Good.
But
we don't want you to wreck. Okay.
I can't see you though.
She's driving. Oh, don't get in a wreck. Don't get in a wreck. Don't wreck.
I'm not.
So what's your thoughts? And then who are you? What's your name?
Hey, Alicia from Georgia. I tune in like every week. This is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So 2 things on that. Like I said, if you ask the question, you have to be ready for the answer. But I also agree with Zach as well. Like, the person too, they have a decision. Do I want to stay or, you know, am I comfortable with whatever number gets thrown out at me? But I feel bad saying that, because if this is someone's past and they've dealt with it, is it judgmental to leave? I don't know. But I do feel like they have the right to, you know, stay or go. If they feel like you're, you know, you've had, let's say it's, you know, a woman and she's had, I don't know, 30 bodies. And the guy's like, I'm not comfortable with that. If he leaves, I respect that. Because if he stays, he might end up resenting that person or not respecting them the way that, you know, they deserve, even though it's something in her past. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
So what about, and you kind of answered it the same way I would. I guess my challenge that I would put out to people is, what about if they had a whole family? They had a whole flock of kids, and they're not with the mom or dad anymore. Is it wrong to not want to date them then, once they find that out, that, hey, I got 5 kids, and the mom, dad still is in the picture? By the same, let's say 2 different people. Because some people are saying it's wrong to do that, to walk away. And I guess my question would be, in what scenario is it not wrong, and does it just turn into preference? So like, if a guy or a girl had like 5 kids, 2 different, the boy or the girl, you know, the ex, from like 2 different exes, would you be comfortable if you walk away? Are you wrong for walking away, or is it just your preference? But that's the question I have for people in the comments. You kind of gave your answer to that one a minute ago, but I do have a question for you that is kind of like, you know, what we started the topic on is, what are some challenges that you see facing the dating world from a Christian perspective? I don't know your beliefs or whatever, but what are your challenges that you see out there?
I'm going to be very honest with you. It seems like every guy, even Christian men, they want the typical Instagram model, 19-inch waist with a big butt. I'm serious. And that's just, not all girls are walking around looking like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one question I was going to ask, Zach. And I know we didn't talk about it before, but I was going to ask the question, do Christian women feel like they're losing to secular women?
Yes.
Okay. My question is there a higher number of secular women built like that, and there's not women in church for some reason built like that?
That's a good question.
Because I would wonder, is that really a secular versus Christian thing, or, you know, or not? But
Zach is always playing devil's advocate.
Always.
I am? How?
You and Christopher. Yeah.
Always.
So okay, so there's this book, I talked about it last week.
We know.
His Needs, Her Needs, right? His Needs, Her Needs.
Uh-huh.
It talks about how men's needs are typically going to be more physical.
Yes.
You know? So if that's what he's physically into, is there anything wrong for him? Is there anything wrong with him not going after that?
No, but I feel like sometimes men will sacrifice certain things, as far as, like, on the spiritual side, like, oh, she's beautiful, you know, she got the body, she's this, she's that, she's, you know, society's standards of beauty. But with her relationship with God, it's not that great, but we can work on that. And they'll sacrifice that because, you know, she's a so-called baddie and this, that, and the other. And I think that's where a lot of Christian women, we kind of feel slighted sometimes.
And I don't think she's wrong with that opinion. I mean,
I don't think she's wrong with it. But well, what do you think, Veronica? What's your thoughts?
I don't think everything should just be about the physical. I think that's more so what she's trying to say. Like, I think a lot of times the physical can get in the way too from just focusing on what really matters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think you can't. I mean, you can sometimes get both, but it's just kind of rare. For being.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of men think, okay, well, if I'm supposed to be a leader, then I can kind of mold her a certain way. But I mean, let's be honest, if someone, you can just tell when a woman only cares about certain things, and you're not going to be able to like change that about her. And at the end of the day, I think you're just kind of going to be stuck with the physical, and then that goes away after a while. So
CeeLo, what's your take on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think men definitely do care about the physical, and they will kind of sacrifice a little bit less on the spiritual side for a girl that looks a little bit better. I agree with that. I agree with what you were saying. Because that's just how we're wired. I mean, we want what we're attracted to. Am I saying it's right? I mean, that's up for debate.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of guys will kind of sacrifice that. I'll take her if she looks this good. You know, she doesn't have to be all the way up here spiritually. So I think that's kind of like where I'm at with it.
I would challenge two things. One, from the men's perspective, I would say because the husband is called to lead, he knows that he's not going to need her to be as maybe well versed and as high of an understanding as he is, right?
Right.
So I get that, and I do see it happen. I definitely do see it happen. I'm not going to lie, but I do think that if we flip it, we could say kind of the same thing, right? So we could say, imagine a guy, he's on fire for the Lord, right? He's got all these good qualities, and he's poor. He is physically poor. He's financially poor, and he will never be financially rich. And I know women, a lot of women love to quote this, whatever show it was. It was like a spinoff of the Cosbys or something, where this guy is, what's the show I'm thinking about?
Is it A Different World?
Maybe the guy with the glasses.
Yeah, that's a different.
Yeah. Well, he's like, well, you know, what if I'm all these good qualities? He says, but I'm poor. And she's like, a man like that will never be poor. And it's like, no, that's not true.
It's not true.
That's not true. Jesus was poor.
Yep.
John the Baptist was poor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me get it out of here. Sorry, there's a dog in here. Anyway, so I disagree with that. Go. I disagree with that 100% because, so I would ask, in that scenario, let's say a guy is like, you know, spirit filled and all this kind of stuff, but he's poor. You know, I would ask, is that...
Why is he poor? And why is he in a relationship if he's poor?
Because he still wants a wife. He still wants a family and stuff.
Okay, but in order to do that, you got to get it together, and that's in every sense, financially too.
I wouldn't say necessarily. I would say in today's world,
to be rich.
What'd you say?
I said I'm not saying he has to be rich, but poor. And as a man, you're looking to build a family.
Yeah. I'll say this. Because here's the thing that we forget. We look at this through through our lens. Take it back 50, 60 years ago. You know, my grandfather was poor. He had 8 kids. And he was a great father. And he was a great husband. And he raised a great family. And he was a respectable man. He was never rich. He was kind of poor. He died with debt, with a bunch of debt, never owned the house, died with debt, kids had debt in the will, all that. You know? But does that mean that he's a bad man? You know, does that mean he's not a good husband or a good husband material?
All right.
Good point.
Still a good husband.
Still a good husband, still a good father, you know? And so I would argue the same thing when it comes to looks. Of course, she doesn't have to biblically, and to have a happy marriage, to truly have a joyful marriage, what God describes as a joyful marriage, she doesn't have to have all the looks of the Instagram model. You're right. You're 100% right. But I think that we have been so trained to think that that's how a good wife will be, that we've watched so many movies, we've seen so many shows, and we believe that if she looks good, it's a huge important factor. And that's just the way that men look at it in general. Same thing with women financially. Do I think it's wrong? No. But I do think that there's wisdom in seeing those other things as more important, that will hold the marriage together.
All right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I want a Lambo. I'm not owed a Lambo. Dirt poor men shouldn't date. So I would ask this for people that are saying dirt poor men shouldn't date. I don't know your ethnicity. I don't know, but take it back to slavery. They were all poor. Should they have not dated and married?
Right. And so I got another question. So as a woman, would you rather sacrifice a man's spirituality for more income? Because that would be kind of the same thing what we were talking about with
there's no wisdom
looks.
in that.
So, okay. So let's say there's a guy who's making $25,000 a year, and that's all he'll ever make.
Yeah.
And he wants his wife to be a stay-at-home wife, and he wants kids. And then someone already said heck no. But he's filled with the Holy Spirit. He's evangelizing and everything. Or you can choose the guy that's making $100K and he's kind of lukewarm. He goes to church. And, you know, he said the prayer. He's like, one prayer, you're there. He said the prayer. He raised his hand at the thing. And then, you know, that's kind of it. The depth of his discussions are kind of like, yeah, I agree with you. Like which one do you think would you rather have raising your kids? Let me move this chair out.
I mean, where's the woman in her spiritual walk? Is she on fire for the Lord?
Let's say it's you.
Let's say it's
you. It's you.
Ay, me.
Whatever your spiritual walk
Wherever
is.
you're at.
Wherever you're at.
That's what she's at. Okay, here we go. Hold on.
Who would I want raising my children?
Yeah, which one do you want?
Yeah, who are you gonna marry?
Raising your children and leading you.
You're gonna marry the guy with
Definitely
money?
not the latter. Definitely not the latter. I'm sorry.
Not the 100K?
No, because how? If you said he's lukewarm.
He's
the Bible
lukewarm.
says God spits out he spits you out.
Yeah.
So why would I want the leader of my house being lukewarm?
Good question.
He can provide.
That's not it. Nah.
So
Not
you
for
choose the 25K guy.
I yes. Because he can't provide for eternity for my children. He can provide here on earth, but what about their eternity?
Well, in reality too, did you know if you make $20,000 a year, adjusted to inflation for every country in the world, you're in the richest. You're in the richest 2% of the world.
Yes, correct. I know.
So, you know, I see a lot of people in the comments like, heck no.
Because we're in America.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's 100% true. TJ Roberson, poor is a mindset. God doesn't want his people to be poor. Okay, what do you mean by that? You're going to have to explain that one for me, because I'm curious. I'm curious what you mean by that.
Right.
Simply, what I can say is you can't ask or pray for a man to have it together, but you don't have it together. No, let's say you do have it together. Let's say you do have it together. He's making $25,000 a year. He's on fire for the Lord, and he's out there building the kingdom. Would you choose him, or would you choose the 100K guy that's just kind of like, no? With those two options, I'd rather stay single. So I got a question. What if you were born during the Atlantic slave trade? What if you were born during slavery? You would just stay single?
Mm.
What if you were one of the,
if you're not called to singleness?
What if you were the 99% of people in human history that were poor?
Ellen, why don't you hop on?
So I don't know. It's just an interesting topic, I think. But you are 100% right about the men thing with the looks. You're right about that. I can't deny that and say that's not true. That is true.
Right. Me neither.
And I want to say something so badly, but I'm not going to because it's controversial. So we'll just
No. We like controversial.
Say it.
Okay, let's do it. And then too, I feel like with that, for Black women Christians, it kind of sucks for majority of us, because when we think about these Instagram models, what do they all have in common? Let's talk about skin color. Let's talk about colorism. I know Black men don't want to talk about that, but this is something that exists. And at this point, everyone can't have the same preference. At this point, I look at it as indoctrination. Somebody has told you this is better, this is that, and that's what you're going for.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's talk about colorism, guys.
I don't disagree with that. I guess it wasn't as controversial as you thought.
Oh gosh!
I was actually had a conversation with two friends a couple weeks ago, and they're women, and they're Black, and they were just talking about how there is they weren't talking about colorism per se, but I live in Alabama. They're in Alabama too, right? You're in Georgia, so it's not too different unless you're in Atlanta. Is that where you are?
No.
What part of Georgia?
In Griffin.
Oh, nice. Okay. So it's like south of Atlanta, right?
Very south of Atlanta.
Okay, cool. So probably similar dynamics there as here.
Mm-hmm.
But she was just talking about how a lot of white men, like other ethnicities, typically don't want to date Black women. And she was like, I would be happy dating a white guy. I would be happy dating, if he's, on fire for the Lord, he's got good character and I'm attracted to him, I would be okay with that. She's like, but I feel like a lot of guys just kind of mark me off because I'm Black rather than any of these other things. So is that kind of what you're saying?
To a certain extent, yeah. But I feel like Black men do it the worst. Because Black men will tell you, oh, I'm not going to date a dark-skinned woman. I want me a light-skinned, red bone, da-da-da. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's just preference, though. Like, some men have their preferences.
No, at this point, it's not preference. Everyone has the same preference. It's indoctrination. That's
women all have their same preference. 6 foot, making a certain amount of money.
Not all.
Like, all the women have the same preference. They want the same guy.
So you don't think women have a preference too?
Not like men. Maybe I'm biased.
But here is the thing though. There's been studies that have been done and shown that when you take someone in a certain culture, one of my friends, Hafiz, from the roommates, we talked about this like last week or the week before on the phone. And so they've done studies where they take a very pale place, like Iceland or somewhere like that. And then they take a Black person, put them over there. And the Black person is seen as very attractive to them, right? You take a white person, put them in a place where all Black people are. That person is seen as very attractive to them, right? There are certain features that worldwide, there's called like the golden ratio for the face or something like that, that worldwide, generally, there's always going to be outliers, but generally is considered the most attractive face.
Right, but
So,
who does those features fit typically? European features.
So not necessarily,
I wouldn't say that.
because here's the thing.
No, the golden ratio, it's Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie.
Let me explain. Wait, what did you say?
I said the golden ratio, it's, you know, the Angelina Jolie's, Brad Pitts and stuff like that. Even the, what's her name? Catherine, the princess or the queen. She's not even pretty, but she was dubbed as one of the most beautiful women in the world.
Okay, so I'm not talking about like Cosmopolitan magazine and stuff like that. The like Time magazine, most beautiful woman in the world. That, you know who comes up with that list?
No.
Women, other women, and gay men. Guys aren't coming up with that list. I guarantee you, guys are not coming up with that list. When you look at, and this is a topic we're going to be talking about next week, hopefully, which isn't good, but when you look at the statistics of pornography and you look at the statistics of what men look at, they're not looking at, the top searches are not always like the golden ratio, the Angelina Jolie or whoever you said it was, or this European standard or whatever. So there's a couple things that they found, that there is a balance. So someone who is in the middle is considered usually most attractive in the grand scheme of the world when it comes to skin tone. Now, that doesn't mean that if someone has that skin tone, they're more attractive. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But statistically speaking, what people consider to be most attractive skin feature is typically Middle East, something that is in the middle, not super dark, not super pale, but something that's in the middle. And so even the people that are from Russia or let's not talk about Russia right now.
Let's not talk about Russia right now.
Yeah. Iceland or somewhere up where there's not a lot of sun. That skin tone is not considered the most attractive feature color worldwide, right? So I don't think that, I think some of it is biological. I don't think all of it is just like has been brainwashed into what we think. Now, I think when you talk about the measurements and the waist here and this, I think that is programmed from pornography, from music videos, from Instagram models, all of that. I 100% think that has been pushed. But when we live in a melting pot, especially in America, people are going to tend to want what's most in the middle, not on either extreme.
Right.
And it's not that everyone's going to think that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think? What is your theory on it?
Let me think on it. I want to hear C-Love's theory.
Yeah.
I agree with Zach. I think he hit it on the head.
I agree with Zach.
I think he hit it on the head.
Do you really think that, or are you just saying that?
No, I really think you hit it.
Oh, brother, tomatoes. I think it's more. So, BFan06 said, I think it's more light skin versus dark skin.
Is that your argument? Is that what you're arguing?
Is that what you're
light
saying?
Light skin versus dark skin?
Is that what you're saying?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Say that again.
Are you basically saying light skin versus dark skin?
Yeah.
So the only reason I would say that is, like, if we're looking at the spectrum of what people generally probably, if we're talking about the majority, not everybody, right? I am not saying if you're this skin color, you're attractive. That is not what I'm saying at all, right? I'm saying when people talk about that, they're typically going to look at something in the middle, right? So if we're talking about black people and you got light skin is considered the middle of the real spectrum, because light skin is not just white. It's not pale, you know? And because people don't want a pale, like white people are like, oh, you're so pale. You need to get some sun. You need to get tan. So everyone's shooting for that middle, right? Now, I don't think that should determine whether or not you want to date or marry somebody, though. I think that's kind of a shallow way to choose, because
It's
that shows
very
nothing
shallow.
about character, shows nothing about if someone's going to be a good husband, good wife, any of those things. Right. And that's something you can't control.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You hit it on the head. You can't control these things, and yet they play such a big factor, you know?
Right. So I have a question. So, because I had to go back and I had to even it out. Because I agree. But what about a guy that's 5'2"?
Uh-oh.
What about him?
He's considered not attractive just because of his height, and he can't control that.
Something he
I've
can't
seen some
control.
attractive short men.
You've seen some 5'2"?
Oh, I don't know about 5'2".
There's some 5'2" guys out there.
But the bottom line is that's not a desirable height.
Would you say it's a desirable height?
Not if you want sons, no.
Hey, what's going on?
Bree.
What's up? Yeah, have you hear any of the conversation so far?
I just tapped in.
Oh man, you're bold. You just hopped in without even knowing what we're talking about. So we were talking about what would you say the topic is?
Right now, it seems like the topic is colorism.
Colorism.
Ooh, good topic.
Ooh.
Yeah, what's your
heavy
thoughts?
topic.
You said when it comes to men, or men and women, or just women, or just men?
As far as
like who's it affecting?
both. I feel like there's stereotypes.
Oh wait, no, sorry. No, I was asking her. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Women, black
okay,
women.
you're saying it affects black women.
Yes.
Got you.
She's not lying. I mean, the light skin favoritism and pedestal that lighter black women are put on since I don't know how long. I mean, we know this is. I mean, when we want to get deeply rooted into it, we know it's because of the the slavery aspect of it, the Willie Lynch mindset, and then when you go into even now, unfortunately, I don't try to just use the whole media example with, rappers, ball players, industry, lifestyle, like projecting the lighter skin woman as like maybe softer or more feminine or like the prize or the go-to, right? Because there's over sexualizing the darker skinned woman, and projecting the lighter skinned woman as like the softer, more feminine, or like the wife, right? And then you go all the way down to the white woman that is like, it's in lyrics. Kanye West didn't come up with a song for a reason. When he get on, he leave your ass for a white girl. Like, there's a lot of stereotypes and there's a lot of facts, I think, combined. I think that, I can put myself on the chopping block. As a lighter skinned woman, I'd be ignorant to like deny that I have like lighter skin privilege, or like I'm not made to be seen as like this stereotypical type image, or like there's this like fetishizing. I've seen my darker complected family members go through it, my friends. It's a real thing. Like, I'm as beautiful as I know they are, and as amazing and wonderful, and they're not pretty because they're dark skinned. They're not pretty because they might be mixed with something, or because they're exotic. Like, but I can't speak on their behalf. I need to do my due diligence to speak up, because as a half black woman, and as someone who I know that is a part of the black community, and I hold them near and dear to my heart, I need to speak up. But I think more so the men speaking up kind of, it has a little bit more of an impact, because we all know that we don't need a man to speak. We've already had the strong woman effect, right? Like, but I think that if we can talk the real and like allow us to get back into our femininity and our soft nature, it feels good when your men speak out on your behalf. And
so let me ask you this. What if a guy's just not into that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Preferences, I think, get bashed too much.
So if he says I'm not, so if someone's out on a date with the guy like that, and he says this is not what I'm attracted to.
Right.
A feature that you can't control. Let's say a guy is 5'2", and a woman says, "I'm sorry, you're a great guy. You've got a great job. You're a believer. I'm not attracted to you physically. You're 5'2". I'm 5'9". But
you're gonna trigger some people with that. I think that, remember when you said that the car lot example wasn't a great idea the last go around? Remember when the woman was giving the example of people and dating in cars and all that? The reason why I think that you would trigger people with the height thing, hear me out. I get where you're coming from, and it's not. I'm not trying to have like a rebuttal per se. It's just, the thing is, with the complexion, you can change it. We have people, unfortunately, trying to bleach their skin just to meet the standard beauty, right? And the problem is, yes, I cannot be attracted to him because he's 5'2" and da-da-da. Like, guys have to eat that up all the time. But for a woman, it's just like, I feel like, from what I've heard my darker skinned sisters say, they would say, okay, but it's not just because he's not attracted to me. Like, I hear it all the time. Okay, fine. If I'm not your cup of tea, great. But it's the bashing that comes with it.
It's the bashing.
The negative things that come with it, right? You know what I mean? If I'm not your preference, cool. But don't say, oh, I'm not attracted to dark skinned women because, and then it goes with the loud, the ghetto, you
it's
don't
the
have
bashing.
to be,
That's the problem.
I don't have to be your cup of tea, but it's just like, don't like me and then period, right? Not the period, like period. Let it be there, and then move on with whatever your preference is. You don't have to.
My phone keeps.
So what if a guy is like, what if she's like, hey, I'm really not that into you, and he's like, what did I do wrong? Just tell me, what did I do wrong? And he's like, really it's 5'2", and he's like, just tell me, I want to know the truth. She should tell him, hey, I'm not attracted to you because you're 5'2", and then at least he'll know, okay, that's not someone I'd want to be with anyway. Because they don't like me because of my height.
Yeah.
And
I agree with that. Like, if it's your height, your complexion, like, people, first of all, people should be able to love who they love, right? But if there is like a thing with a person not liking someone for those specific things, right? That specificity might need to be, on the surface, there might not be anything wrong with it because you should be entitled to like what you like. But if you continue to push great people away and you keep, woe is me, I'm never going to find nobody, maybe you need to become a little bit more open-minded. I'm just saying.
I do have a question. I'm trying to pin this. Okay, there we go. So, hey, why do you look like...
My phone keeps calling me. What was the question?
Because I just came from church. But the reason that I bring this up is it a problem when it's a certain ethnicity that doesn't like that, or is it just a problem for people in general that don't like that? You know what I'm saying?
I want to answer your question. I personally don't think preference, as long as you're not intentionally trying to hurt somebody or be evil and just, spiteful, I don't think preferences are wrong. And two, let's be clear. Colorism is not just a Black culture problem. Colorism is through all, from Indian culture, Middle Eastern, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, like colorism is a problem globally. Like, we know there are too many facts statistically. I just know that I can only speak on personal experiences from what I've experienced from men, from what I've experienced from my sisters, friends, cousins, and whatever. And then also too, like, just knowing that, like, I've dated guys that have dated me because of you're so pretty, for you light skin, the stereotypes, and then like, oh, you'll make some pretty, like, I don't want to be fetishized after. Like, men and women are more than your complexion. Like, it's like,
what if he just thought you're beautiful, and those are the only things he can see? He can just see your hair. He can see your skin. What would you rather him say? Like, oh, I like you because you have big boobs.
It's not a point of. It's not a point of just, what he can see and everything. It's the point of learned behaviors. We're not going to make excuses. That's why I said the intent behind it. Right. I'm talking about ignorant men who have come to me, and I'm not bashing them. Ignorant is not always a negative connotation, right? If you're ignorant with something. I'm talking about men that have literally dated me because I'm the light skinned curly haired girl, and they think that, oh, like, oh, she's so, like, sometimes it's either she's wife material stereotype, or they think you're a pushover, like just like how lighter skinned men get the stigma of being a weaker man, and dark skinned men are like supposed to be the tough. Like, there's so many stereotypes and stigmas.
Oh,
All I'm
definitely.
saying is there's nothing wrong. I don't find anything wrong with saying, oh, that's a fine chocolate man, or that's a fine brown man. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that's a fine yellow. But we as a Black people are still, unfortunately, dealing with colorism today. The reason why it's still a problem is because it's still very relevant. We're still talking about it, and it's still skin deep. It's still very much a surface level issue and a deep issue.
So before you hopped on, I was just explaining how there's been studies that have been done of like the human genome, and in different areas what is considered attractive and things like that. And they found that when it comes to like skin color, for example, right in the middle is generally where you catch most people, right? Where you catch most people what they prefer. Most, not all. Somewhere in the middle, right? So when you talk about the Black culture or Black people, right? Black people who are light skinned are going to tend more towards that middle. When you look at white people, right? White people who have tans are going to be more towards that middle. White person that's pale isn't going to be considered attractive. So it's not that it's like, let's put this on Black people. Let's put, it's like you said, it's on everybody just because for whatever reason. And I think it has to do with a little bit of biology, but I definitely agree with the stereotypes 110%. But I think part of it has to do with like, not the stereotypes, right? But just when it comes just look attractive, not thinking of anything else. When it comes to that, I think it's because someone who tends to be towards the middle, whether it's from this side or this side, is going to get considered attractive when it comes to skin.
But that's learned. We got to remember, this is centuries of being. This is programming. I'm not trying to be the conspiracy. Like, I'm only addressing facts. The skin bleaching industry is a $1 billion industry, Black market and mainstream. Like, from, like I said, Asian Pacific culture, Asian culture, Middle Eastern culture, African American culture, African culture, like worldwide, globally, lighter skin, the lighter you are, close to whether it's a beige, a neutral, or all the way pale, the lighter you are, the more attractive society has made that appealing to be. We can literally pull up the statistics and the facts.
Not pale. Someone who is translucent and doesn't go outside and looks sickly because they're so pale.
But you're stretching it. You're stretching it. We're talking about, come in. Okay.
Just so you guys know, I just want to say this really quick. I'm at my parents' house tonight, so if there's any interruptions, that's what's going on. But
we're talking about that's a stretch, right? We obviously know where you're talking. That's an exaggeration. I'm talking about go to the Middle Eastern and the Asian culture aspect of it. When you have that powder white skin and that smooth, like they are attractive and appealing because that is what the media and society projects on. That is society's standard of beauty.
I don't agree, because even when you look in the Bible, right? And it's I believe it's in Song of Solomon or somewhere. This lady talks about, don't look at me. I'm like darker because I've been out in the sun all day. I know you're not going to find that attractive. And so I think part of the attraction part, I don't disagree that there are stereotypes. I 100% agree with the stereotypes, and that is something I want to get into right after this. But I don't think the idea of the paler you are, the better you are, I think that's only from a Black perspective, because in a white culture, the paler you are, the better you're not. It's the darker you are, the better you are.
And I understand I get what you're saying, like the cultural appropriation, white people trying to, lip injections, butt injections, tanning, all this and that. But I'm talking about literal, like financially, we're talking about social economic status. Like literally, the lighter you're, like people are, I have friends from different races and culture. I'm pretty sure we all have like a diverse group around us, hopefully, right? Because that, it just only makes you more wise, and you know what I mean? It's humbling. I've had friends tell me from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, from Iran, literally, in certain, especially when they become, if their parents have been, if they're first generation from their parents, and if they have come here and try to make a different life for them, they've literally told them, like, the lighter you are, the whiter your skin is, you are higher on the set, on the social chain, on the financial, like, they give more opportunity.
I actually agree with that, because I know some people of the Indian culture that's how it is.
Well, like, you gotta look at the why, and we can't always chalk up the why to, like, it's this this guy had a plan one day to make these people ugly, and so he pushed it, and then that's how it happened. When you look at India, we're talking about the caste system, right? When you look at the caste system and you see, okay, people who are well off or wealthy, guess what they did all day? They were inside. People who were working all the time, guess what they did? They were outside. So in the caste system, of course it's going to be, if you're lighter, that's equivalent to money. Now, you're not going to get money because you're lighter. You are lighter because you have money and you don't have to work. If you're darker, right, you are darker because you had to work, you know? And so I think when we talk about certain places, it's different than here in the US, obviously. But so I agree that there's, you know, different people like different things, but I think to just chalk it all up to, like, there is this shady, mysterious man out there that is just like, hey, I got this business idea for bleach. We're gonna make everyone bleach the skin. How about that? You know, and then
we know it's not a mysterious idea. I feel like you gave a beautiful example. But come on, let's be real. You gave a beautiful example right now, and you said, like, I don't know about America. Your example applies to slavery and to the Willie Lynch mindset. The lighter skinned people, more than likely, aside from the step and fetch, stereotypical Tom, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The lighter skin was in the house, and more than likely, what was portrayed and taught to us, the darker skin was in the field. This has been projected. And when you go to society today, what is still stereotyped and what is still found as attractive? Like you said, I think your example was spot on. It's not just about the financial aspect. That's a huge part of it. But even down to the richest, all the way down to the poor. We always know that the poor, middle class, everybody always wants and is striving to what is portrayed and projected on the higher level, on the pedestal. So therefore, if the lighter skin, rich, aspiring, blah, 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 if that is what is attracting and stuff, in the poor mindset, it doesn't matter if the man is the rapper, multi-million-dollar investment baller, blah, blah, blah. If he is projecting, he's successful, I'm rich, I'm this and that, and I want the lighter skinned woman, and that's what's appealing. The hustler in the street, in the gutter, blah, blah, he's going to get that same mindset because these are representation. So therefore, if they're telling us, oh, the masses, right? Oh, this is what it is. They set the tone. Obviously, there's people, 1, 2, 3, like we have individual thinkers, but we know that unfortunately the masses are more than likely going to be sheeple. They're going to follow suit.
So I'll ask you this. I can see why you would say that, but the only thing that I kind of disagree with a little bit is when it comes to if it's purely brainwashing, and it's like this color brings this characteristic, this one brings this characteristic, right? Men are more physical. Men are more visual and physical. They don't care as much about the extra stuff. A guy isn't going to care as much about, oh, what is her career? How much does she make? Social status, all this kind of stuff, right?
Right.
If that's the case, then why is it that men are liking the women you're talking about, but women have no problem who saying, oh, I want a tall, dark chocolate, you know, extra mocha chocolate shake kind of guy, you know, like a lot of women express, I want the dark skin guy. I want the dark skin guy. I want the dark skin guy. So if all these negative characteristics are on dark skin, right? When it comes to relationships and dating and things like that, then why, if men, if men are
But
just
the
purely
stereotypes are not the
physical,
same. They're not the same. I've already said that the stereotypes for a darker skinned man, a darker skinned black man, we know that he's the thug, the aggressor, like he's this and that. The
right,
lighter skinned black man,
Right.
he's
right.
weaker, he's this, he's that. So therefore, that there is no negative connotation when a woman. There's no negative correlation when it comes to a woman thinking. The negative is for the lighter skinned man. Like he can't be. He's not as much of a man.
So,
He's
okay,
not as
so
manly.
so the point. So what I'm saying. So what I'm saying there.
I don't even know about that.
So yeah, the point that I'm saying there is that if that's the case, right, that's a positive for darker skin. And like I said, women.
No, it's not. It's
you just
not
said
because
you just
because
said it's
I'm
more
gonna tell you why
attractive.
it's not. Because we're all still. I'm not even trying to be freaking rainbow colored, and this gonna
Yeah.
sound way too
No,
kumbaya.
go ahead.
But I'm being literal. The reason
Okay.
why it's still a negative for both light skinned men, dark skinned men, the in between shades, and same for women. It's always going to be a negative for all of us until. That's why I love your question. I think that if we can once we, God willing, one day, I pray that I'm still alive to see it. Once we get to a place where we are just going off of like, hey, just like I'm attracted with them, just on some real, no pun intended, on some real light-hearted stuff. Like I'm attracted to what I'm attracted to. You know what I mean? Without bringing all of the stereotypes and negative, it doesn't matter if I am uplifting the darker man and then I bash the light skin. It's not good for him because we're all in it together. That's what I said. It sounds like the kumbaya, corny, whatever. But we're literally supposed to be we black people, in my opinion, we are still so far behind. Don't get me wrong. I feel like we've done such an amazing job for centuries now. But point being, so many other cultures, even with their own crap and problems, because everybody has problems, they still know how to unify more than we do. This alone with colorism, like I for the moment,
I don't know if I agree with that.
I'm not.
You said you're biracial mixed with what?
I'm black, Italian, and Puerto Rican, but black and white basically.
In what? You said Italian and what?
Black, Italian, and Puerto Rican, but basically, my mom's white, my dad's black.
Oh, okay, got you. So you should know that when it comes to, because sometimes I don't necessarily agree with the idea of like everyone else is together and we're just divided. You see, you have white family. You have white family, right? White Americans.
Don't assume.
You just told me.
I grew up with majority of my black family. I didn't grow up around my white family.
Okay, then I'll enlighten you on this one, literally and figuratively. So white people, white Americans especially, are not all in this like, oh, we're all on the same team, we're marching together. You look at politics. You look at politics, for example. Half are very liberal, half are very conservative. You have a white person in New York who's going to be completely different from a white person in Alabama. You have a white person in Alabama is going to have more in common with a black person in Alabama than a black person would have with a black person in New York.
Zach, hence why I said for the most part. You're being so literal, and I understand where you come from, and you're making solid points, but that is why I said for the most. All I'm talking about is specifically with certain areas, whether it's like bringing our finances together and social and getting equity versus equality. Like there's just a lot of areas in the black culture that I feel like we're still putting in lots and lots of work to come together, because I feel like the thread unravels too easily, especially when we start to get in a divide with this topic alone, like with colorism. Like one wrong word, one wrong jab or joke or this or that, like, or an experience, you know what I mean? Like if I were to have a bad experience with a light-skinned guy or like I feel like we cannot let certain things or personal experiences or just specific stereotypes or whatever like block us from the bigger picture, like the bigger point.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Because that is something that I think that I'm 100% on. I think that's something I want to talk about in a second, but I want to give you C-Love. What do you have to say, man? I don't want you to sit there this whole time quiet.
Man, this is not my conversation. I'm letting you two biracials throw blows right now.
Okay. All right. So you'll be able to join into this one. You'll be able to join in this one, right? So you're a psychology major, right? See, Love, you studied psychology in college.
Yeah.
And this is something I think everybody needs to listen to. I don't know if she's frozen or what. Maybe she can still hear us. But anyway, the way the brain works off of patterns. The brain is just like a computer, works off of patterns. And so every time you hear that ruffle in the woods, you're thinking, okay, there's a lion back there. I'm not getting eaten. That's how your ancestors survived. Your brain works on patterns. Oh, I saw Jerry from our community eat that berry, and now he's dead. I'm not going to eat that. You know, that's how the brain works. It works off of patterns, right? So when you see certain things, you are going to correlate certain things with those things. When you see a pattern, you're going to say, okay, this is the case, right? So, for example, many times, I'll give you an example. Let's say, let's just say this. Let's talk about blackface, right? The history of blackface. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with it. And for those who are not, it was the idea that in like the Jim Crow era in America, you had white entertainers and people on TV, they paint their face black and they would create these negative stereotypes that said, this is what black people are like. And it would be lazy, dumb, you know, all these negative things, right? And the bad thing about blackface is not, oh, you painted your face black. That's kind of the reaction today. The negative thing, the thing that made it so bad was the fact that our brain recognizes patterns, and it can't recognize whether that's reality or not. If it sees a pattern, it will go based on the pattern it saw. So what happens when you put on national TV, this is what black people are like, all these negative characteristics. You got a white person that's never been around black people seeing this on TV. What is going on in his brain? His brain is telling him, this is the pattern I'm seeing, regardless of whether or not it's real or not. This is the pattern I'm seeing. And so that pattern I'm seeing, when he interacts with the black person, what is his brain naturally going to jerk to do unless he forces it to come back? It is naturally going to say, oh, that's one of those people that does this, 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 and this. You see a guy, you see a white guy with a MAGA hat on, you're going to think, okay, he probably is pro-life. He probably is like wants to build a wall. He probably hates taxes, you know, all these other kinds of things, you know?
All right.
And so you take that. That's what blackface did for almost a century, right? And you have people who have this idea of, okay, this is what black people are like. Never been around someone like this. This is what they're like. You fast forward. So let me ask you this, Bree. Would you say that has a negative impact on how someone's going to be treated by someone if that's all they've seen? If all I've seen on TV with people with dreads is they do this and they do that, and then I come across C Love, what is my brain going to think? I'm going to think these negative things, right? Unless I'm smart enough to say, no, that's wrong, right?
I can't agree with the unless I'm smart enough part, because I agree with you with the programming, but we cannot just sit here and use it in the Jim Crow era for blackface, because we're talking about generations and centuries of white people learning. I'm talking about people today that can still go count back to grandparent generations back.
Oh no, I'm just using an example. I'm just giving that as an example. I'm not saying.
I do agree.
Yeah, I'm saying that's a bad. You would agree
impact.
It's bad, right?
Yes.
Negative, yeah. And by the way, Jim Crow is like, my parents technically were alive in Jim Crow era. Grandparents were alive in it. So it's not. I'm not trying to make it seem like it's far back. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm saying that it was a negative thing, and I think today we look from the perspective of like oh, well, you know, the bad thing about it was painted the face black. I'm saying, no, there were worse things that came with it. There were all these negatives that came with it that were pushed and stapled onto people that are still on people today. So when you fast forward to today, right, there is a problem that, so what would you say the negative stereotypes for Black America is? The negative stereotypes. And C-Love, you can say too, because I know she probably has phone calls to take and stuff, so I don't want to disrupt her work or anything. What would you say negative stereotypes for Black
loud,
America?
ghetto.
Okay. Well, describe ghetto. Describe what that means.
Ghetto, loud, ratchet, hood, ignorant.
Okay,
Describe
hood, ignorant, all those things. Like, give me, if someone that doesn't know those terms.
Hood and ignorant are being described as loud, being ignorant, being uneducated, being in a state of poverty. All of these things, which, you know, I mean, I get so irritated when people use the word ghetto anyways, because we're not even going to get into the fact of the Jewish encampment and the whole thing, or where that word really came from.
Uneducated, lazy. That's what Bruce says. Okay, I agree. All those things you said, 100% I agree. Right? Those stereotypes.
Oh, athletic.
No, I said negative. I said negative, not positive. Those are positive.
these are negative too. Because
being athletic doesn't mean you're not educated.
Hear me out. For me, the reason why it's a negative to only put a Black person in those positive stereotypes, which is still negative, because it boxes them in, and the athlete is supposed to be positive for his it's a positive stereotype, but then he's just a dumb athlete.
But this is that's the problem you made. You threw in dumb. That's still
I didn't
a positive.
Throw it in there.
That's what I'm saying.
Positive.
It's only negative if you say dumb and all these other things. If someone is smart and athletic, that's a good thing. If someone is just athletic and dumb, that's a bad thing, because I'm throwing dumb in there. I'm talking about the negative. I'm talking about the negative only. I'll get to that later, how certain positives are only pushed. I'll get to that. But I'm talking about the ones that are completely negative right now.
Right.
Loud for women, aggressive,
okay.
The black, what is it? The angry Black woman complex, like.
Okay. Yeah. 100%. You got Jim Crow. You got not even a generation ago. You got all the way century and this century stapled on by white people, right? Now, right? And this is the part where people are on board with me 100% until this part. Now, you've got Black America saying, hey, I'm going to make a movie. And the movie is going to be so funny because it's so true. And the movie's going to be about a fat, overweight, loud, obnoxious Black lady. And it's going to sell it's not going to be popular to white people. It's going to be popular to Black people. And so in today's world, sadly, the white people don't even have to put the stereotypes on Black people anymore. Now you've got channels like Black Entertainment Television, which is technically owned by a white person now, that has their award shows and will celebrate people who say, I am this, I am a thug, I am dangerous, I am loud, I am obnoxious, I am all these things, and that's my culture.
But you just said the key thing, it's owned by a white person. If white people are funding it, they control the narrative and the creative control.
You're right. But here's the thing. You've got people, so now when a Black person decides to step out of that, what do Black people say? Oh, you act white, you sound white, you do this, you do that. And that's a problem. So now at this point, white people don't even have to do it. Now we're at a point where, oh, you vote this way, you do this, you do that, you think differently than what we're stereotyped to do. You are no longer black. That
you ain't black if you don't vote
is
for me.
self-destructive.
But that's not
Because
new. People have been called Uncle Tom's slavery.
That is self-destructive, because when you take positive things like, oh, I know how to speak properly, I know how to use proper English, I know how to, I make good grades. I don't like listening to music that's just about drugs and killing and drugs and killing and drugs and killing. I don't know the names of those artists that do that. Guess what? In other black people's eyes, you're not black.
It's both now. We've gotten to a point to where, yes, we are still unfortunately bashing one another and taking away, revoking people's black card for not falling under the stereotypes, or like, again, learned behaviors. You know what I mean? Like we see it all the time. I have a split. I know what it's like to grow up in the hood.
Bruce just said, who's mad at Tyler Perry? Nobody. People applaud him. People applaud him. He makes the cover of Ebony magazine and all these kind of things. He's doing such a great job. And I'm not bashing him. I'm not saying he's not a great guy. I don't know.
It's more than Tyler Perry doing those stereotypical movies.
But I mean, Medea, let's just say Medea, you know, like that is literally making fun of a stereotypical black woman, and black people are buying the movies. Black people are watching it, laughing at it, and then saying, Tyler Perry, you're doing such a great job. And then, hear me out. And then when a white guy comes across a black woman, he's like, oh, I've seen that in the movies. And then in the movies, when people are watching it, they're like, oh, that's just like Auntie so-and-so. That's just like so-and-so. And then the white guy's like, oh, I don't know. I guess they say that's like Auntie so. Okay, well, I don't want to be with someone like Medea.
Because it's a two-way street. I agree with you about the stereotypes and continuing to push the narrative, like to push the line to show that we are beyond this. But let's not act like stereotypes have been created in this negative light, taking away the reality of this is representation. People do live in the hood. That is Auntie so-and-so. Like that ghetto, like, hold on. The ghetto loud narrative and all this and that, whatever. That has been, again, going back to, it was projected as negative and this and that. People, if the girl is loud and that's culture and then that's their upbringing and this is that, whatever, hear me out.
Not positive.
It's not positive because if it's not appealing to us.
No, it's not appealing to anyone. Even the Bible says that a woman who can't control, a person who can't control their mouth, and a woman who has no common sense.
You're talking about it from a pure, like as if she's going off again. The negative, the angry black woman thing. If you have personalities all across the board that grew up, and if they're just loud and boisterous, what if that same girl that is just loud and she's just now, it can come off as annoying and ghetto, whatever. What if she is valedictorian? What if she is straight A's? What if she is in a scholar? Like, just because people's personality.
What does that have to do? What does that have to do with it? Just because, but that's like this. That's like this. Let's say your son is going in for a job interview, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna wear my sweatshirt, and then I'm gonna wear a sweatshirt, some gym shorts, and some Sperry's. I'm gonna walk in there. What are you gonna tell him?
I can't digest your example because you know that you're going off of pure day-to-day comfort based off of differentiating between knowing when and where. We know that there's a time to turn it on and because
right.
that's
the same thing.
I have the family members and the friends that are the loud girls in this and that, but they're not messy, they're not rude, they're just loud because that's just a part of their personality. They're loud and this and that.
Hey guys, wait, hold on, really quick, guys. share the live. If you like the live, share the live. Okay,
this is great. I'm not even gonna lie, this is great.
Go ahead. Hey, just so you know, Bree, just so you know.
This is great.
Because a lot of people, you don't know me. We don't know each other, right? But I just want to let you know, in these conversations, I'm not in no way, shape, or form. If I disagree with you, I'll disagree. I'll shoot down the argument, but I'm not shooting at you. I just want to let you know.
I don't think.
Okay,
so.
cool.
Like,
where are you from?
Yeah.
You're from New York?
Me?
Yeah. Where are you from?
No.
Northeast, right? Oh, California. Okay, maybe. Yes, I thought you were from New York.
What was that? What was the side eye?
I was gonna say you guys have a little softer skin over there, but I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
No, well, not me, but
Okay, cool.
let me, because I feel like I can go on a let me try to like make points.
Yeah, go ahead.
All I'm trying to say, the only thing I'm trying to convey is that because I'm so like hell bent, yes, on progression, I agree with you. I do want us to, it's just like, okay, from the 90s, 80s, like all this and that, the movies, blah, blah. Okay, it worked good. And I think that we're at a place where even people in the industry, artists are like, cool, great. That was already been said and done. Like now we're at a place where there's more to our story. Like the Black experience is beyond what we've seen, right? And what's been told. But all I'm saying is, I don't want to, not saying that you were,
Go
I
ahead.
don't want to ever disregard or dismantle or bash like the Tyler Perry's, the Martins, the Jamie Foxxes, like Shanae, like all of these things, because like I know those girls. I hold those girls near and dear to my heart. They get such a bad rap. Even the dude, like I have the hood family members, the dudes, the guys that are labeled as thugs and this and that. But because you have to understand unforeseen circumstances, uncontrollable environments from where they live, and things that are not, by choice, right? Like if you're born into something, your environment, your neighborhood, like you're
Um,
not just, your personality doesn't mean that you're a product of your environment. Like like I said, I have the loud homegirls that are friends, family, whatever, but
okay, so
they're also doctors, accountants, lawyers. Like I have a
so
freaking,
they had someone they had someone that was willing to say, hey, I'll hire you anyway, because I'll hire you
it's not
anyway.
anyway. That's the insult right there.
It's not an
Because
insult though,
it,
because
I,
if okay, I'll give you an example, right, like in the same way, let's say you've got a restaurant, okay,
yeah.
you've got two restaurants. One restaurant is called Restaurant A. The other one's Restaurant B. Restaurant A serves the best food in town. That food is amazing, right? That food is amazing. But it's in a shed. The door's kind of falling off the hinges a little bit. The wood is kind of rickety, and the windows are all sideways and stuff. And it looks like there's a leak in the roof. Then you've got Restaurant B that serves okay food, and they've got it all. They've got the glass, big glass window. Everything looks pristine and clean. Most people, regardless of whether restaurant A has great food or not, most people are going to be repulsed by going in there to find out, because our brain works on patterns because we don't want to waste time. We
Which
don't
is
want
why I
to
have a
say,
problem.
we don't want to say, oh, well, I'm going to look at every single thing. Maybe this time that sound in the bushes at night, maybe it's not a lion this time. Maybe it's a bunny and I'll have a pet. Maybe that guy just ate a bad berry and that's why he died. If the brain, I agree that in a perfect world where our brain does not work on patterns and it works totally differently, then yeah. And I agree 100% that people should challenge some of the stereotypes that they come across. I agree with that. But your brain working that way is what keeps you safe. For example, okay, I was at a gas station downtown, right? And I was actually on the phone with BFin06. BFin06. I was on the phone with him at a gas station. This like old school Cadillac with the candy paint and the big rims pulls up on the other side of the gas pump.
Not the candy.
I'm filling up my gas. It's nighttime. I'm filling up my gas. The guy looks at me. I look at him. Kind of give him one of the nods. He gives me one back. And then I look, and he pulls a gun off of the seat of his car, in the driver's seat, pulls a gun up, just unholstered, just grabs a gun, and doesn't see that I saw that he grabbed the gun, puts it down in his pants, and then he's walking around. By that time, I already took off. I was already gone. I'm not about to take the chance. My brain, I'm saying, I'm listening to the patterns. I've seen this one play out with people. I'm not going to say, maybe he just, forgot his holster and he's just coming to ask me for some change or something. I'm not taking that chance. I told my wife, same thing. If you're in that situation, don't worry about, because she's white. I tell her, don't worry about the stereotype. Whatever. I'd rather you be alive. And the people say, oh, why'd you run away from him? I'd rather you be alive.
And I'm not saying that you're wrong, but we also know that
your brain works
not
on
about
patterns.
patterns.
So
The patterns don't apply when the white kid in khakis comes with just his regular backpack and his Doc Martin shoes or blah blah blah, and then he walks into the black church and shoots up all the black people. Let's not act like
If I say school shooter, what color comes to your mind?
white.
Exactly, because it's a pattern. That's the point I'm making.
But this is my point.
That's
this
the
is
point.
my point.
When you see a pattern, look, listen. If
I just said I didn't disagree with you. All I'm saying is when you said the restaurant theory, right? You said they're probably going to be repulsed because when we talked about the other one, it doesn't matter how great the food is. The reason why I have a problem with it is because going back to the original example at hand, when you have these men and women that grow up in these environments and in these neighborhoods and that are stereotyped and only put into this negative connotation, negative experience, negative thought process, taken completely away from the whole person in general, overall person, you take away from all of the greatness that can come with that person. And it's all negative and bad and run away and oh my God, they're gonna run, all this and that. But when it comes to industry, making money, cultural appropriation, it's all fine and dandy. When you wanna listen to our music, when you wanna dress like us, when you wanna do your hair like us, like all that stuff, that's what I'm saying. It's always great when they want to strip the culture and profit off of it, but then you want to take the people and put them into the gutter and just.
But no one in white America. Well, I can't say no one, but most people in white America are not telling their kids, "Hey, dress like the guy from downtown when you go to your job interview."
They don't have to tell them because the kids are doing it on their own.
No, they tell them not to when they go to these interviews and things like that. If you want to be seen a certain way, look. So let me ask you.
You're a man of facts. I love that you will literally go and Google. I'm like, oh my God, this is like one of my favorite things. I like
Bing. I like Bing better than Google.
Who profits? Then Bing it up.
Yeah.
Who profits? Who is the main the main one to make it a profitable industry? The reason why the hip hop industry is a $1 billion industry because majority of white people are buying the music. They don't have to tell their kids. My point exactly.
The parents are telling them not to do it. So
they can tell them not to until they're blue in the face. So are they not still doing it?
Yeah, the kids are doing it, of course. That's what I'm saying. The parents realize, hey, everyone recognizes this pattern. I don't want you to fall into this pattern to where people think you are like this. That's the whole point I'm making.
But when the white kids do it, it's all fine and dandy.
It's not fine and dandy. If a white kid shows up to a job interview and he's wearing a do-rag, even though he doesn't need one, he's wearing a do-rag and he's wearing like a Iverson jersey.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. There's only two positions.
Wait, hold on.
The white kid, if he shows up and if both the black kids, I'm going to steal your example. If the white, let's say if it's only two positions. If the white kid shows up in the do-rag, the baggy pants and this and that, whatever, and if the black guy shows up in a suit and tie and everything, the white kid still has a better odds of getting a job.
I guarantee.
I don't think so.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I don't think so.
Have you heard of affirmative action? Do you know how many industries and big corporations go to schools like Tuskegee's, black HBCUs because they have to make a quota of a certain diversity.
And if they already have their token black person,
so I guarantee you they are not going to choose. They're not going to choose the white guy that's like, "What's up?" And then the black guy that shows up, buttoned down, looking professional, knows what he's doing. They're not going to choose that guy over him. And if they do, guess what? Their company is going to go down.
Their company, they already have their token black person. That's why.
Yeah, but they're not. At least they're going to have someone that does the job right. You're right. Sometimes they pick the black person over the white guy that may be more qualified just because he's black. But what I'm saying is that my whole point. Let's reel it back in because we kind of got off. We kind of got off topic. My whole point is this. Right. I know how the world should be and the world could be, right? I know that everyone should go into that restaurant to see what food do they really have because I may be judging it too soon. I know that I agree that everyone should do that. 100%. 100%. The only problem is I know that the world won't. Even in the Bible, this is before any sort of Atlantic slave trade or black, white, American capitalism, take it down. Before any of that, Samuel said to to David and all of his brothers, he said, man sees on the outside, God sees what's on the inside, right? So if I know that man sees what's on the outside, then if I'm going to try to present myself to men for something, especially when it comes to dating, men or women, why would I present myself and allow myself to fall into a stereotype that is negative and to promote it and to say that's me and then get mad when someone's like, okay, well, I don't want you. That's my whole point. And so my advice, my only advice is, hey, if I know that's a pattern, if I recognize that's a pattern and people react that way to that pattern, I'm going to say, hey, maybe this isn't how the world should be, right? Maybe they should do this, but I know this is how the world is. So I'm not going to tell my son or my daughter, hey, do it anyway. If they don't, I'm not going to put them in that situation. I guarantee you.
I don't think that we should, but we are also called to be made in, are we not made in Christ's image? So therefore, if we're to be Christ-like, we're supposed to be able to try to tap into the internal. I agree with you. We're not supposed to just basically be ignorant and throw ourselves into the wolves' den. I agree with you. We have to exercise wisdom. Completely agree with that. All I'm saying is, you said that if we lived in the perfect world, I can understand, but you know what? The world's never going to be perfect, but we're perfectly made in his image. So it is our job, it is our due diligence as believers, especially for those who are ignorant and move in a certain way, or if they're just not believers at all. I don't want to call people that are not believers ignorant, but I feel like we have you know how when you come into your faith, like it's like you're crawling, and it's like it's a process, right? You can start crawling, take steps, baby step, you walking. I feel like you get to a point in your walk where you just have certain responsibilities. Yes, I completely wholeheartedly agree with you, but I feel like when you're at least what I could imagine with some like-minded individuals right now, when you get to a certain place, our heart posture is a little bit more advanced, a little bit more developed. So it takes go back to your example with your wife. That is being a secure, protective husband. By no means should you, I think that advice that you give her is completely accurate. But let's say yourself, right? Minus the gas station situation, because I think you did the right thing. But if it's just a casual,
I know I did.
let's say something casual, right? Let's say a friend of a friend is being introduced to you and they're not your usual cup of tea, right? I feel like it's on us to be a little bit more open-minded, a little bit, extend more grace, just because it's something that
I was just talking to the comment. Sorry.
Just because it's something that's out of our norm or something that we're not used to, or if it's not our cup of tea, our cup of coffee, doesn't mean that we should be dismissive right away, right? Like, I think that we owe it to these people, right, to the world as members of the body, to extend that grace and to be open-minded. By no means to conform or to compromise ourselves, but to at least just extend grace. Everybody deserves grace, no matter what the circumstance, right? As long as you're not being put in harm's way, as long as nobody's trying to come at you or for you, right? All I'm saying is we just need to extend more grace.
I agree.
I agree with that too.
The only thing that I have trouble with is the fact that the brain works a certain way.
Yeah.
Like the brain works off of patterns. And if I see someone that is loud, obnoxious, doesn't know how to act in public.
But does your spirit not your spirit not supersede your brain? Is your spirit not mightier than your brain? You are spirit first. Your brain is a part of flesh. So your spirit, you should be at a point where, no, I take that back. I want to stay in my lane. I don't want to overstep.
No,
we would want to get to a point to where our spirit is moving before our flesh, right? I get the patterns. That's why I continue to say and be mindful of my words. I'm trying to be very selective. I hear you and I agree with you, but that's why I gave the subtle example of, hey, say you're with the guys, right? Chilling, cool, great. It's the regular fellas, but then maybe somebody brings in a new person, right? Yeah. Boom, immediately off of, let's just say, I don't want to go into detail. Let's just say they automatically are like the opposite of what we're all used to, right?
In terms of what?
Just like, let's just say they have let's just say they're not the typical person that you would find yourself befriending, whether it's the way
Typical.
they look.
Okay, go ahead.
They're just not, you know, that they're not somebody that you would put in your normal group. You know what I mean? Maybe they dress a certain, maybe they come off as negative stereotypes that you would want to, like, usually ideally not mingle with. What I'm saying is, judging a book by its cover, not giving somebody a chance, like, that is where the grace is supposed to be extended, right?
Right.
Because let's talk about church.
Okay.
What if,
Wait. Well,
what if we
go ahead.
shunned and pushed away everybody? I saw this when I was 11 years old, and when I was in church. This is 2 years before I went to my home church, now that I've been ever since.
Mm-hmm.
This woman came in with a raunchy out, like, she looked like she had probably just came from, like, one of the you know, she came something, right? She came into the church. She sat in the back, and I knew off the back she just wanted to be in the church, right? I saw one of the women ridicule her, come and immediately bring one of the prayer cloths, and, like, not out of love, not out of, you don't know what a prayer cloth is? It's a woman's skirt.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's just, a prayer cloth that's old school.
Like extra clothes. Extra clothes. Yeah.
It's just to cover a woman's, you know, if you need to cover your knees or something. So, anyways, point being, church is not for the perfect, prim and right? Pristine and whatever.
Right.
Church is for the sick, for the broken, whatever, blah 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 blah. Yeah. I'm not saying that we are called to extend grace. I'm not saying that we need to like everybody. I'm not saying that we need to befriend and blah, blah, blah. But when we're talking about love is God, extending grace in the body and this and that, could you imagine how much of a hindrance we would be to God's will and to the body and to the work that we're supposed to be called to do if we just rejected everyone based off of, like, what we see and what we're not, and patterns?
I agree.
Got you. I agree. You've made your point, and I agree with it 100%. The only difference is this. You said, don't judge, but use your spirit, not your mind. Your spirit over your mind, right? And when I look at the word, when I read the word, and the word tells me what to not look for in a wife and what to look for in a wife. It says someone, go ahead. It says someone that is unruly and loud and wants to argue and is combative.
It's not
good. That's not a look. That is an attitude. That is an action. That's a heart posture. Someone has that. If I'm following my spirit, regardless of how they look or if they're a valedictorian or whatever, I should be like, hey, the word says this wouldn't make a good wife, so I'm going to walk away from it. I'm not talking about just the look. I'm talking about if we are telling men and women that, hey, this negative trait, we can't call it not negative just because a certain group of people have been doing it now, and it's kind of considered our culture or whatever. I don't think that is a culture thing. I think that is purely an unwise thing and something to make people feel better that, hey, yeah, if I'm reading the book of Proverbs, those attitudes that you expressed, the loud, proud, blah, 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 whatever, the Bible calls that a fool.
Mm.
And so, especially when it's coming to dating, I'm not saying you kick them out of the church, you don't teach. I'm not saying that, but we're talking about dating. If someone has those characteristics, because that's what those are, characteristics, then I would always advise a guy, you do not want to marry that because God says you shouldn't want to marry that.
All right.
That's a good point.
And no, those characteristics are considered bad regardless of race. White, black, Hispanic, doesn't matter.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Exactly. Those characteristics are considered bad regardless of race. The only negative thing is there is only one group that, for whatever reason, whether it's white people's fault or this people, some sort of indoctrination, there's only one group that considers that's just a positive trait that we have. That's not a positive trait for anybody.
No.
And so when we're talking about the Medea movies and things like that, we can't just say, well, that is like Auntie so-and-so. Well, then Auntie so-and-so needs to change because those aren't good traits. And
Are we
so,
talking about, I want to be specific because we're talking about like the things that we wouldn't want to promote to like our loved ones or our children, like smoking and drinking and like belligerent behavior and like, you know, aggressive, like fight, like things like that of that nature,
I'm
right?
talking about Medea. Let's say Medea. Everything she is. If you've seen any of the movies, Medea
Is also a loving grandmother, auntie, and this and that. Like we have to
Medea,
know the balance.
Medea, love, go ahead. You've seen more movies than anybody. Go ahead.
I've seen every single Medea movie.
But let me ask you this: do you think Medea is desirable to a man?
No.
Do you think that let's just say the guy that wrote the Book of Proverbs or different parts of the Book of Proverbs, he's talking about the type of wife you do not want. If he saw Medea, would he say, "Oh, you know, when I meant quarrelsome, I just meant, you know, just not all the time. I mean, she does it only 90% of the time. That's fine."
No, I absolutely don't
That's
think that's what he meant.
She's
But let's
100% quarrelsome.
Learn behaviors, generational. Like, let's not overlook the work that is still being done. A lot of people don't have this being taught to them. I just want to point that out.
Exactly. I agree. And so the problem is this: when you realize and you know, then you cannot say, "Oh, well, you know, hey, that's just our culture. I'll let you go along with it." Because, like, for example, you know, right? Yeah, you know, and you said you have friends. I'm not, like I said, you've been on here once before, maybe twice before, and I love when you come on because you've got great points and everything. But you said that you have friends that act that way, and then those friends, you're like, that's just who they are. I love them, and they're great, and I would never tell them to change.
But that's a gray area. I specified. I said I have the friends that are more like colorful, loud. Like they're very much.
You didn't say colorful before. You said loud.
I said loud personality. Like yes, they're loud.
You said ghetto.
No, I said that I hate when people use the word ghetto. Because first of all, let's pick a day when we're gonna get to the Jewish camp.
Let's ratchet, whatever. You said you have friends that are like that.
But I didn't say ratchet because for me, ratchet is so like, this is a problem. We have so many different labels and definitions for that. I'm talking about my friends that I know, and even me. If I'm caught in the middle of laughing, or especially when you're with your girls, like my thing is, I just feel like there are snapshots of moments of a person's personality that just stamp them in this negative light. And I just said that these same women, I can pull up I'm not going to do this. I'm being dramatic, but I can tag 5 women right now that would be labeled ghetto because of being loud. And like I said, for me, it is colorful. Like they're like overly like extra bubbly in my opinion, but it's labeled as ghetto. But these are women who are attorneys. These are women who are in doctorate programs. These are women
Medea's personality. I don't
have any people that have Medea's personality.
Okay, so you don't have any friends like that. So you don't have any friends that act like Medea. We're talking about the Medea personality. I'm not talking about someone that's like, oh yeah, that like pleasant to be around. I'm not talking about someone that's pleasant to be around, agreeable, kind, and then it's like, oh, they talk a lot. Oh, sorry, I'm too loud. I'm talking about somebody that
who's crazy.
When we talk about
loud, I don't care.
Someone that acts as if they don't know how to act in public. And the problem that I see is that, and like I said, it's a problem that I want us to fix. It's not, I'm not doing a whole Kevin Samuels thing or who, I don't want to bash him, whatever. I'm not doing what people view as the Kevin Samuels approach where it's like, you point out the problems and then you say, well, yeah, whatever, fix it. I'm trying to say what I think the solution is too. But the problem is people don't like to hear the solution because the solution comes with some responsibility that is not, I can just blame someone else for all these problems. So, you know, I just think that, C-Love, what are you looking at?
Look at the comments.
Why are you, you were laughing at something. Oh, okay. Well, I don't see.
I wasn't laughing.
What is the solution? Okay. Here's what I think the solution is, right? So I think the solution is And the solutions are never going to be easy. But I think the solution is we need to stop saying these negative characteristics is our culture. We need to stop saying, dumb, I don't know how to speak. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't swim. I can't this. I can't that because I'm this color. That's what Jim Crow and slave, that's what those people put into your mind. And now we've gotten to a point where we're saying, I can't do this because I'm this. I'm that. I'm black. I don't do this. I can't do that. And so those are all negative things. So I think the solution is, as uncomfortable as it may be, we got to say, hey, these negative stereotypes were put on people, right? But now that we realize that, we got to say, look, those stereotypes, regardless if that's how my grandma acted or my aunt acted or my dad acted or my uncle or whoever, we got to say, okay, now those stereotypes I'm not going to entertain anymore. I'm not going to say, hey, I'm going to watch the Tyler Perrys. I'm not going to watch that. Imagine if a white guy made Tyler Perry. If a white guy made it Tyler Perry, that's such a negative thing because he's making fun of and he's creating a negative stereotype. That's the same thing that's going on in a Medea movie. And so we got to say, okay, that is not okay. And when I see people acting that way, I'm not going to say, oh, they're just black, so that's fine. That's just how we act. No, I'm going to say, hey, you don't need to be acting like that. I don't care what color you think you are. You don't need to be acting like that because you're making people think I'm like that too. And I'm not like that.
All right. And
for me to give you a pass is for me to say, I think low of you because you're black too. And so I think the way to fix it is accountability and say, hey, you don't need to be acting like this. That's not how you should act. And then stop entertaining and putting money in to things that are promoting a negative thing. You know, when you got people talking about, that's who we are. This is who, you got ignorant rap and all this negative stuff. And then saying, hey, we're the icons of black entertainment television. We're your icons. This is our culture. This is us. You say, no, that is not who we are. You get down and then you get up there. And I am no fan of Malcolm X or any of those people, but I guarantee you, if he was alive, he would be furious with. And the only reason I'm saying Malcolm X is because people like him so much today compared to Martin Luther King, so they view him as like more of a strong figure. If he was alive today, he would not be okay with Migos and all these other people being considered black icons. He wouldn't be okay with that. He would say, no, that's negative. We need to change that. We are not that way. And so that's what I think the solution is.
Okay. I like Malcolm X, but I do agree with that.
No, prejudices and racism is the white man's problem to fix.
And that's not true. Because racism, I love when people say that. If racism ended today, right? Hypothetically speaking, let's say it ended today. There are people that still believe because I'm black, I'm going to act this way. Because I'm black, I'm supposed to like this. I'm supposed to not like that. And those stereotypes, the things I'm supposed to like and not like, end up putting me in a bad spot. Regardless of who put those stereotypes there, if I follow that, I will end up, majority of the times, in a bad spot. If I believe I'm supposed to be a rapper or an athlete, not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm supposed to be that. It's going to put you in a bad spot. I'm supposed to sell drugs. I'm supposed to have a gun. I'm supposed to commit crimes and be comfortable around people that commit crimes and things like that. You're going to end up in a bad place. So you can say if racism were to end today, and there are people that still have that mindset, they will not, things will not change economically. Because if you have people with that mindset, they're still going to stay there.
Right.
But he just said, no, you raised in a certain culture, you don't be seen that are successful, has done that. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I agree with him. One, I believe when he says that the black culture needs to shoulder this, like basically with you saying do the work, I agree with his comment saying that black people need to take on this responsibility. But then two, if you're raised around this type of culture and environment, it is normalized.
Incorrect. When the guy said you're raised around doctors and lawyers, that is not true. That is 100% not true. I know people who are raised around doctors, lawyers, Black Americans raised around doctors, lawyers, two-family household. God's going to have to get off soon because it's almost 9 o'clock. But they were raised in a solid house, two-parent house, right? And they go off and do some dumb criminal activity because they believe, oh, I'm Black, I'm supposed to be this way.
Not all the. It's not just because I'm Black, I'm supposed to be this way. White people have lawyers. White people have successful upbringings too. And then what happens when they go out on a drug tangent and start turning into freaking addicts?
I'm not saying white people don't do bad things. Black people do bad things. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's only one culture that says I'm supposed to kind of do bad things because that's my culture. That's what I'm saying. And I see that when the Black guy that's raised by the lawyers, we know people like that, C-Love, we know people like that. And then what happens when they get around other people that they speak eloquently, they're smart, they do all this? What happens? They get told, oh, you're white. You know, you're rich, so you're kind of white. You're not really one of us. Right. It's the whole Carlton thing from Fresh Prince. Not the new one. I haven't seen the new one. I don't like remakes. I'm not gonna watch it. Stupid. But when you have people, I don't want to say, I just don't like how people are making remake after remake. That's all I'm saying. But when you have this idea that, hey, if you're educated, you know how to speak English properly, and you don't associate with people that are committing crimes and things like that, and you don't know your way around people that commit crimes and things like that, you are not considered Black. You're considered white. He's too white. He's too this. He's
whitewashed.
Too that. No, he was just not raised around criminals. That's not white. And to say that is white is to say that criminal, these things are Black. And so if you say those things are Black, you are putting negative stereotypes on Black. What I'm not saying, I'm not saying that the situation that Black America was put in, I'm not saying that, oh, it was Black people's fault. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that, hey, yes, there is racism. Yes, it needs to end. 100%. 100%. But all I'm saying is if racism ended today, there would still be work to do within the Black community that still believes a lot of these negative characteristics, regardless of if a white person told them or if Migos and Future and these other people told them this is what a Black person is. That's what I'm saying. And that's just a fact. Like, that's just a fact. And I don't know why people don't want to say, yes, racism is real. Yes, it's evil, it's demonic, and it is not of God's spirit, and it needs to be done with. And one day it will be done with. That spirit will be gone forever. But to act as if, like, there is no responsibility to say, hey, yeah, we have bought into some of these lies, whether it's because a white person told us that we are these negative things, or whether it's because BET told us we are these negative things, or these rappers told us we are these negative things. Regardless, it is still believing a lie. Now, I'll say this. I'll say this. The devil can't make us do anything, right? The devil cannot make you do anything. And on an individual level, all he can do is tempt you, right? Mm-hmm. But he kind of goes about it with the same strategy every time. That strategy is this. If he can get you to question your identity and who you are, he can get you to do anything. And in Genesis chapter 3, what did he say to Eve? He said, if you eat this fruit, you will be like God. Mm. When Jesus was in the desert in Matthew chapter 4, what did he say to Jesus? He said, if you are the Son of God, turn these stones into bread.
Question of identity.
Right? Go back to Genesis, though. He said, if you eat this, you'll be like God. Turn a page over. And you see that it says God made them, male and female, in his own image. They were already like God.
Yeah.
You go to Matthew chapter 4. You turn over a chapter before. Not even a full chapter, like a line before chapter 4 starts.
And what do you see? A voice came down from heaven that said, "This is my son, whom I am well pleased." So with every lie that the devil gives you, God has already revealed the truth of your identity. And I'll say it like this, because when I was in Green Bay, I was living in Green Bay for a while, and I was going through some things, and I felt like, for a myriad of reasons, that God had like forgotten about me, or like maybe he wasn't listening to my prayers, or I think he forgot. Like I'm just got passed by, because I feel like I've gotten passed by in a lot of different areas growing up. And I thought, man, I feel like he's forgotten me. And in prayer, I felt like, I don't want to say God said, but I just kind of had this thought like, what is your name? What is your name? And I looked up my name, and my name is a Hebrew name, Zechariah, which means Yahweh remembers. Before I even got to that point, I had been given the name, God doesn't forget, God remembers. For that time, that the devil would try to tempt me and say, oh, you're forgotten, right? So when we look at these negative characteristics, because that's what they are. If we're going to be truthful, that's what they are. They're negative characteristics. When we say thug, rough, and this and that, just because your skin color, that is a negative stereotype. And when we believe that is who we are, then you're believing the lie of the enemy, and the enemy can get you to do anything he wants, including sell drugs, kill, steal, anything. And the devil only comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
Yeah.
And so that's my whole point. And it bothers me when I'm like, hey, stop listening to the lie. And the people are like, no, the lie is okay. The lie is okay. The lie is who we are. The lie is not who you are. Stop telling people the lie is who you are. And so that's my whole point. I didn't mean to get off on a whole rant tangent there, but yeah.
No, I think it was good.
That was great. That was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's up to us to change how we're perceived. It's not just up to white people to change their minds about us. We actually have to take that responsibility amongst ourselves and do the work to change our image.
Yes.
Right.
I think that was great.
Yeah, we have to change the narrative.
Because let me ask you this. Let's say that let's just say all white people were not racist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Let's say starting right now, boom, none of them are racist. And they're purely going to judge you based on your character and who you are and how you act.
Oh, that's good.
There would still be people that are treated poorly because they act poorly. And they've been told that if you're black, you can act poorly. It's okay. That's who you are. And that's not good. And so my thing is not an either or. I'm not on the side of like the people that say things like, there's no racism, everyone needs to fix it and stop. I'm not saying that. But I do think there is truth to both sides. And sometimes we only want to take the truth that's comfortable over here, but we got to take the truth on both. And that's the only way. That's the only way.
Yeah, Zach, I think that what I'm receiving and digesting, although I think that we're both in agreement that there are certain gray areas that we can agree to disagree on, I'm receiving it as you holding us to a higher standard and wanting us to have accountability and coming at this in a sense of like from a place of love, right? And I think that you want the best. I'm receiving it as like if someone was to set up a seminar or a workshop and you were to present this, especially like to like our youth, right, or to like the younger generation, I would look at it as like we're holding you accountable, we're holding you to a higher standard, like we're holding you to like do better and to change the narrative, although it's going to look different in so many different ways because we know that things are circumstantial, like things are different based off of equity and equality. People are in different positions in their life, right? We know that, again, this bears repeating, the Black experience is an all around the board type of thing. But I think that in general, the point that you're making is really a really phenomenal and necessary point for our people, for Black people, and for our culture to not try to change or conform anyone, but you know, to just want them to be the best version of themselves possible. And I think that we all know that people would not easily digest this because one, we know that people usually have their defenses up, or people can be attacked, or it could be triggering, you know. But I think that if we can take the message that you're conveying and break it down from different people, from different like leaders, different people of representation that are on different platforms, to break it down for people to spoon feed it to people to receive it the way that they, right, like with pastors, right? Not every pastor is going to do it for you. That's why finding a church home is so important, because for people need different people to take the same message, right? To take the same type of message and to be able to spoon feed it to people so that they can digest it and process it and start to implement. Like, it's one thing to learn, but we need to get to a point where we're consistently learning and applying.
Right.
Right.
And I guess my place is this. If someone is in Alabama and they want to go to New York and they're heading south, I think the worst thing I could possibly do for that person is tell them, yeah, keep heading south.
Right.
The worst thing
Yeah.
that I see happen to somebody is for someone to think they're doing the things that's going to get them somewhere. They're really putting in the work, they're hoping, they're praying, and they're doing those things, and they end up somewhere else. I feel like that's the worst thing for someone. And so when I notice, like, hey, these things, you're heading south to the beach, to like Florida. You're not heading north to New York. I'm going to tell them. And I'm not going to tell them to say, ha ha, you're heading south. No, I'm going to say, look, I want you to get to New York too. That's the way to go. And if I don't say that, then I feel like I'm doing a disservice to anybody. And so that is all I want, because I see kids that grow up in certain areas that I'm just like, man. I was at a football game, a few months ago. Football season's over, but I was at a football game, and we were at one of the high schools, and they had the police. Like at most high school games, you got parents out there collecting the money for the parking and stuff. This place had police checking everyone's bags. Everyone has to have a clear bag, and then everyone had to get out afterwards. And right across the street, there were people doing all sorts of stuff. And this is that kid's understanding of high school football and high school sports. And I don't want anybody to, I want those people to have the same opportunities as everyone else. But by me telling them, hey, you can go out and act and dress and do the same thing you're doing right now, and you'll end up where these people are one day. That's a lie. I started out in college as a walk-on. And I don't know if you guys know what a walk-on is, but a walk-on is someone that does not have a scholarship. I started further than other people. And I had to do more. There was no way around it. I had to do more than this person had to do. It was just the fact. And I'm not saying that it was right, because it wasn't right. I was treated any walk-on knows you're not treated the same, right? But it was my only option. And so for the same thing, I would never tell a walk-on, like, dude, you don't feel like coming to practice, don't go to practice. I would never tell somebody that. And so to the guy that's saying, guy or girl that's saying, well, white people do this and they don't have to do, because they haven't been given those stereotypes from white people and in today by black people.
The black people.
They do have some stereotypes, but those stereotypes aren't so bad that it's going to ruin their life. They're only. It's
not really hindering their opportunities.
Right. Those stereotypes just, he's not cool. Or now it's turning into like, he's racist. But that's a whole nother conversation. But if you know that you have all those things on you, yes, you're going to have to do more work. Unless maybe one day all those people say, hey, we're going to make it fair. I'm not willing to count on it. And so I agree that in God's world, God says that God hates injustice. God hates injustice. Those are things God cares about. He hates injustice, right? One day he will make it right. He will make everything right, everything fair. But until then, if someone's asking me, what can I do?
if I see these negative characteristics that they've learned from their environment or whatever, I've got to say, hey, first thing we got to do is we got to get rid of those weights holding you down.
All right.
Think about it like this. Think about it like this. Steve Love, I know you've heard me say this one a million
I know
times,
it.
right?
Yep.
Say you've got a goal. You've got a goal on the other side of a lake, and there's hundreds of people in line to go race for that goal, right? In a boat to row, right? Okay, the guy with the Boondocks logo or whatever is your icon. You're right. There is nothing that's fairness and true justice is never going to be accomplished any time in world history, ever. That's a fact. You're right. If you've read the Bible,
Right.
you know that. Okay, anyway. Okay, my point is you have to row across this river, and the first 10 people to get there are going to be, you're gonna win, right? If I see somebody that's either that's weaker, or I see someone that has these other people have a head start, guess what I'm going to tell that guy? I'm going to say, hey, if you've got stuff in your boat that's holding you back a little bit, you got to throw it off. And he's like, well, those people up there have stuff in their boat. I'm like, yeah, but you're trying to catch those people.
Yeah.
You got to throw it off. You don't have a choice. And so
what did the last comment say?
He's like, oh, well, that guy should still. Huh?
I can't see the comments. What was the last comment?
This guy was just like, God's not going to make anything fair in our lifetime. Haha. I was like, yeah, I mean,
we know that.
He kind of even some things out.
I mean, it's not about, it's true. It's not even about reading the Bible. It's
not fair.
It's not even about reading the Bible, though. Like, we don't live in a fair world, and that's the reality of it.
Right, because we're fallen. So
when I say one day, I'm talking about when the world is over. Jesus never promises like, oh, if you follow me, everything's going to be okay. No, Jesus never promises that. And I know that one guy said something about, oh, God doesn't want anyone to be poor. That's not true. But
he never promised you riches on earth.
He never promised riches on earth.
Oh yeah, I'm like, I don't know about that one. I can't see the comments, but there's no selection of who's going to be wealthy and who's not.
It's about using your disadvantage as leverage as much as you can. I mean, if unless I'm the person in charge saying how the race is going to be, I'm going to put everyone the same. But if I can't do that and I'm just a spectator and I'm like, man, I want to see this guy win, I'm going to go up to him. I'm going to say, dude, you got to throw this stuff off your boat if you want to get over it. And he's like, but I love Medea. I love being able to act this way and people just accept it because I'm this color. You got to throw that off.
For me, I'm at a place where I feel like equity is like more of a priority than trying to focus on equality. I feel like equality is such a stretch and it's like kind of wishful thinking in some areas. And I'm more so focused on like trying to work hard for equity because I think that's one of the things that has still continued to be stripped because of all of the restrictions and all of when you think about redlining and just everything that comes with racism and the stereotypes. But I think that the work that you're talking about that's why I like the example, because the accountability and everything that comes with this topic, I feel like goes back to what I want for our people to continue. Not saying that the work hasn't been happening. I want us to continue to literally like mold together and like just not even just for the future generations. Like I want better for us. Like I'm so sick of people acting like we need to just iron out the next generation, like as if we're dead and like in the dirt. Like as long as you have breath in your body and you have your right mind and you know you have capabilities, like we can still make changes.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it kind of reminds me of like that athlete or that, let's just say that student, right? Bad student makes bad grades. You're trying to help that student get up to a 4.0. And then you put a science book in front of them. They start to like science and they start to be good at it and they get an A in science. Like, okay, you brought it up to a 1.5. Now it's time for math. I'm like, well, I don't like math. Yeah, get it away from me. That's the same thing when it comes to like, yeah, everyone wants to grow in the areas. It's like, oh, this is kind of fun. Hey, we got our own this, we got our own that. Hey, we got this bill that was passed that gives, hey, we got an extra stimulus or something like that. Black people get more of this. Affirmative action is great. But it's like, okay, now we eventually we have to get to math. Yes, make an A in science. What about like a B minus in science? Like, okay, yeah, get the science up to an A, but we got to do some math too.
I think that we can't take. I agree. Let's not take away or disregard the like and the want for what works and stuff. I get the whole. I get what you're saying. Like, let's continue to not enable to just stay content and stagnant, but continue to celebrate the small victories, like doing well in science and da da da. But then, all right, now you know that you're so capable. Like, you see what you can do. Like, now imagine like giving that support and continuing to push one another to we have to push ourselves outside of our comfort zones, and I completely agree with that.
Right. But the problem is there is such a locked mindset, and I'm about to get off soon, but there's such a locked mindset that is told, hey, if anyone tells you to work on math, they're really just whitewashed or something like that. It's like, no, that's the only way to get to a 4.0. You have to have math too.
Right.
You can't ignore it. And the math in this example is the we'll talk about that later. The math in this example is the things that are kind of cool, the positives that come with it. Hey, I can be loud and whatever, and that's just kind of accepted. It's who I am.
Let's stop saying loud. Let's like say the really negative, detrimental things. Like, I agree with you. We all know that there are probably going to be seasons in our life when we have to walk alone. If that person is bettering themselves and they keep having those things in their ear, I don't care if it's blood family members. Like, then you might have to get a point. Like you said, I love the dead weight thing. You're going to have to eventually, that dead weight might be those around you, those who are in your ear. You have to cut. You're going to have a point in your life where I believe the masses will experience. You're going to have to walk alone, and you're going to have to get thick skin and learn that it's going to be you and only you and God at a certain point. I don't care if it's your sister, auntie, cousin, blah blah blah, like your favorite uncle. It doesn't matter. Like, if you are trying to better yourself and to progress, especially in your walk, and trying to be a better person and be a better servant of God, then eventually you're going to have to just cut ties. Maybe you don't have to permanently cut them off. Who knows? They can come back around. But in order for you to continue to try to evolve and level up, if that takes cutting people out of your life, whether it's for a season or a lifetime, then so be it.
So Holloway, I'm just gonna say Holloway because I don't know what the beginning is saying. This is all kind of mushed together. It says we have literally came from slaves with nothing to millionaires and presidents in 150 years. Blacks continue to progress. The system in place slows us down. School systems aren't equivalent. Dude, the systems are what removed those things in the first place. The system is what removed the slavery and the Jim Crow and all these other things and made it legal for those things to happen. I'm not saying that the system is perfect yet, because there's still things that need to be done. But to act as if we just uprose and just threw off the masters, and then now we said, hey, we're the presidents now. That's not what happens. So,
but he is making a point. It has happened, even if it is in a small percentage. It still has happened, though.
The point I'm saying is this, though. This is the issue. He's saying no. The system was removed to help with fighting wars. Yeah. Guess what? The system was removed, and it allows you to be president now. That's what I'm saying. Now it's time, instead of the other people helping, not instead of, with the other people helping, let's also throw off the weights that's holding us down.
Help ourselves, yeah.
No, I get you.
That is the same message.
It's both. Yeah, I agree with both, though. I mean, you need to have the knowledge of both sides.
This is the thing that I don't know how old this guy or girl is, but the problem with is they don't understand certain parts of history, like the idea that Jim Crow ended just because black people wanted it to end is not true. They had to convince other white people to end it too.
He's old enough
when we're talking about especially when we're talking about from a spiritual perspective, same thing. A lot of the abolitionists were Christians. A lot of the people who were fighting Jim Crow were Christians. Martin Luther King was a Christian, he was a believer. All these other things. But they had to allow it to happen. Nowhere, hardly anywhere in history, unless there's a revolution where those people uprise and just take over, and now they're in charge, right? There's never been a system where people just say, "Oh, well, we're gonna give you guys a turn now," and
Right.
to an extent, that's what's kind of happened. And so I agree. I agree things are not even. I understand that. I'm not arguing that things are even. What I'm saying is this. I'm saying you cannot just hope that these people are going to help you. I'm saying that if the race is unfair, and you're behind and you've got a canoe to catch up, I'm going to tell you as a friend, dude, throw that thing off the boat. Throw that thing off the boat. That's going to slow you down. That's going to slow you down. And you can't say, well, he's got stuff in his boat. Like I said, you're trying to catch up to him.
Right.
And so,
because we know it's not fair.
So if I know it's not fair and I'm trying to tell you the best way, I am going to say, hey, yeah, it's not fair. 100%. It's not fair. These people need to fix this. You're right. 100%. But I'm not going to say, dude, just sit back here and wait till they fix it, man. Then race. Don't go now. What if they never fix it? So in the whole thing we were talking about was dating, right? We'll bring it back to that. Whole thing we were talking about was dating. And when it comes to certain stereotypes, especially with women, that someone brought, the first guest brought up about women and these negative characteristics and stereotypes when it comes to dating, is I'm just saying, hey, yeah, you may be a great mother, a great personality, all these other things. But if your first impression is, I am loud, okay, unruly. Let's say unruly.
Thank
so
you.
You don't like
Thank
loud.
you.
But loud, okay, let's say I'm unruly, I'm argumentative, and I'm gonna fight with people, and I'm not gonna be on the same accord with somebody that I want to spend the rest of my life with. Then what do you expect? That is not, if you're going to buy into that stereotype, why would someone waste their time to say, maybe they're going to be a really good mom, though, even though they've got these negative things going for them.
I doubt it. I doubt that. I think that if they're going to buy into that stereotype, then they need to readjust their expectations. And if they don't want to make the changes right now, and if they feel like they're okay with themselves, then they should go seek someone who will validate those types of behaviors and characteristics, and don't try to lash out or attack the man for not wanting that, going back to preferences, you know?
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And so, like I said, the main topic here was about preferences and whether preferences are good, bad when it comes to physical things. Yeah. And then we started talking about characteristics.
Yeah, this thing it went all over.
And we went all over the place. We're not here talking about history and stuff, which has an impact.
I feel like it was good. I feel like we circled back every time.
Mm-hmm. For sure. All right.
Definitely a great conversation.
For anybody that's just hopped on, we come live every Wednesday, and we talk about different topics. Next week, we've got a guest that was on last week, and we're going to try to get her back on, and she's going to talk about some of the negatives of pornography when it comes to relationships, and not just from a guy's perspective, but as a woman who was hooked on it at some time. Mm-hmm. So I think that'll be a really interesting perspective to hear from. And if you guys don't follow, go ahead and follow. And follow our TikTok. We usually just do funny skits, things like that. But on Wednesdays, we try to bring up some controversial topics. So go ahead and feel free to send us a message, follow, and request different topics you'd like us to talk about, especially when it comes to relationships, and we'll talk about it.
Right.
There. Oh, Otis Leverett. He said a fair has a Ferris wheel and cotton candy. Life ain't fair. I would like to have him on sometime too. Even if he'd like to come on and share some words now, that'd be cool. But go ahead and
give us a follow.
Yeah.
Caste TV.
Go ahead, give us a follow if you don't. And thank you again. We put all these videos, the full video, 2 hours on YouTube. So our last week's
live. We're going to be posting tomorrow, and then this one we'll be posting next week so that you'll be caught up on everything. And thank you, Bree, for hopping on. We appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bree.
Thank you.
All right,
Such a
I'll
great
see you
topic.
guys next week.
Bye.
All right.